Hey everyone, continuing this week with the 3D printing journey. One thing I haven't seen a lot of 3D printing videos talk about is the relationship between what your slicer or your printer tells you and the amount of filament you have left. Now, all of my stuff is Creality. I don't know about other brands. I don't have any other 3D printers. I've got my Ender 3. I've got Creality filament, and I've got a dryer. So for my setup, the filament goes directly from the dryer to the printer. So it goes through a Teflon tube, so there's no exposure to outside air, or very little, and it comes out of the dryer heated, 50 degrees Celsius for the PLA that I'm using. And in addition to that, it's about 14% relative humidity. So it's really dry coming out of there, and that's how I print. But when I use their slicer, if you look at the preview carefully, you'll see how long it's going to take to print, which is great, but you will see how much it's going to use in filament. Now, you go look at the Creality reel of filament, and there is a mark on there for where you are. From that, you can estimate how much filament you've got left. So if you're about to do a big print, for example, and you look at it and you see that there's a lot of, see how much filament it's going to use, and you go check your spool, which is why the Creality dryer is clear, so you can see the spool and you can see where it falls within the demarcation lines that they've got. You can see if you're going to have to add filament, or maybe you want to retract your filament, take that one out, put a new one in to do your big print, and then come back and use the other one later. Either way, I haven't seen a lot of people talk about that point, that you want to go check your print, check your amount of filament, and see if you're going to have enough to do this print. That way you won't get a surprise of running out while you're doing the print. The other thing I've noticed while I was doing prints this week is I started doing Christmas things. Creality has a contest going on currently, and I would love to get the top prize, which is a K2 printer, because what I would want to do with that is flesh it out completely, which done is about $3,000, which would give me 4 of these hubs and all the filament to fill those. Now the 4 hubs are 4 rolls each, so you could get 16 colors and populate it with 16 different colors so that you don't have to change the color and you can print in color. Right now I'm just printing monochrome. There's one spool. You can print in color by swapping the spool as needed, which can be problematic, as you can imagine. Sitting there, swapping the spool, putting the other spool in, getting it all refed, getting it all started back up again, just to take it all out again afterwards to put the next color in. So this allows the system to take care of that. It might lead to less waste with the system doing it, depending on how the system's built. But I don't see a lot of people talking about that aspect of knowing where you're going to end up when you get this print done. Are you going to have enough spool, or are you going to run out of spool? That's the first thing. Second is all these little knickknacks that I found. Some of them, you'll see that they've got different types of prints. For example, I found a dreidel that is broken down into pieces. You've got the base piece, you've got each of the characters for the sides, and you got the handle, all separate. Because you could print each one of those individually by changing out the color on your spool. So let's say you wanted the characters in green. You could change out your color for green, print just the characters. If you wanted the main body to be brown because you wanted to go for an earthy type tone or something that's a little bit, looks more like a wooden dreidel, you could print that in brown. The characters insert into the main body. So when you're all done, you'll just slide it all together and make it one unit out of it. That's one way you could do this print. There's a gingerbread man, same theory. Each of the individual pieces can be printed and then slid into the main body, so you can print everything in a different color by just changing the filament once per print. Again, remember, you don't have to print just one thing on the bed. I know you'll see a lot of videos out there with people printing one thing on the bed. You don't have to do that. For example, there is a cat piece that goes on a keychain. It is a self-defense tool for a woman because it can be used as a weapon. Your fingers go in the eye sockets and the ears are very pointy, so they can be used that way. With my 20 by 20 bed, I can get 6 of those on the bed and let the slicer worry about how it has to deal with that and just let it go, and it will print all 6 for me. So it doesn't matter if they're different items that you're printing. For example, if you wanted to print the dreidel, you could put all of those items on the bed and just let it go, and it will print all those items for you in, on one bed. But as I was looking at those things and thinking about having a K2, which would allow that kind of flexibility in what I'm doing, I'm a photographer, so that being able to take a portrait and convert it into plastic interests me. It also interests me to be able to do a 3D colored statue of somebody. So I'm looking at that on a different setup. But just being able to print little toys for gift giving, printing the honeycomb wall, printing the Gridfinity stuff, designing and printing a little set of inserts for a cabinet that I found that I had to modify just a little bit so that it can take my external USB attached drives and keep those organized and get them all in one upright spot so that they're not spread out across the desk. There's a lot of things that we can do with 3D printing in addition to fixing things. You've got a part that's broken, but you've got the part, but it's broken in such a way that you can't use it. Can you model that part in such a way that you can just replace it, or has somebody already done it? Organizing things, putting stuff together specific to what you want to store there. For some people, that's very important because then the object always goes in that one spot. For others, just having a spot to store things that's up and out of the way is important. I've got tea that's loose leaf tea. It comes in these nice little canisters, and my thought is maybe I will just make a surrounding canister for it. So once I've opened up the tea, I put it in one of these other ones. Now it's got a double seal to it because the little cardboard and tin container that it's in will now sit inside another circular container with yet another tight lid on it, just to give it that little bit more protection from moisture and things. So there's a lot of things that we can do. And, a lot of people say, well, it's limited to your imagination. Well, it is and it isn't. There are some things that's just better to buy than it is to make. There's a whole slew of wrenches that you can print. Or I can just go buy them in metal. I think I'd probably want to buy them in metal. However, you may come across a situation where you don't need the resiliency of steel, and what you're working on is so small and such an odd spot that you may not be able to find a tool for it, so you can make a tool for it. There's a lot of options that we can do with 3D printing. Again, I'm just getting started in this. I've got my organizers printed. I saw the contest come up and I thought, what a great way to make Christmas ornaments for people. There, of course, is a slew of stuff out there for people who celebrate Hanukkah. There might be things for other religions as well. I just haven't gotten that far yet. And certain religions celebrate things a little differently, so there's different icons or symbols that would represent things. For example, if you're talking about somebody who wants to celebrate Yule, finding something that looks like a really cool burning log and then painting the flames or finding a print that has those all colored for you could be really cool to give as a gift to someone like that. So there's lots of things that we can do for each one of the holidays. Little hearts and lockets and things that could be printed for Valentine's Day, for example. But again, not everything needs to be printed. You can always go buy something if you can. If you can't, you have to print it, obviously. But if you can buy it, look at that trade-off. Is it worth it to me to go buy that object, or am I better off making it? And then that factors into, is that object exactly what I need? Or would I be better off customizing an object? And some of the stuff that you can get that are from Thangs and other sites like Printables, some of those things are just STL files, and you may or may not be able to modify them too much. Some may give you the full 3D mesh object that allows you to manipulate it a little better, and others give you parameterized items that just allow you to punch in some numbers to change diameters and things. Whichever one that you're going to use, again, is this something that would be quicker and easier for me to just go buy versus printing it? I know having a 3D printer and wanting to just print kind of goes with that. But at the same token, just because you've got a 3D printer doesn't mean you have to use it for everything. There's a lot of things around the house I can see that I can use it for. There's a lot of things I have to learn. I haven't used CAD in years, so there's a lot of things I've got to learn about specific CAD use for making things that will 3D print. And making sure that I've got everything aligned on the printer just right so that I will get the tolerances that I need for screw tops and those types of things. But again, just starting, bringing you guys along for the journey, and I will talk to you all next week.